fan.
It's probably a fan. Let's see. I lost the video camera for a second. Let's see. There you are. Get all these announcements. When would you like me to fix your computer? Like, update your software. Not right now.
Well, it's the perfect time to update Flash and Acrobat.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It always is.
Oh, okay. It's the new Microsoft Office.
That too?
Yeah.
Over here.
Cool, man. As usual, well, not as usual, but as a welcome guest, it's Simon from O'Reilly. Senior editor still, or?
No, these days I'm a strategic content director, but senior editor is a lot easier to explain.
Okay. I always mess up your title anyway, so that's okay. That's be our running joke anyway. So I always seem to mess up your title somehow. So sorry about that.
Okay. What's your title?
I always mess up my title because I don't know. I don't know what my title is. What would you say my title is?
Awesome creator of online conferences and other good things. I don't know.
That's pretty good. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Yeah, because I actually printed new business cards and I avoided having a title on them altogether. Just so
not a bad idea.
Yeah, so like when I talk to someone, I can just write down like what we talked about, and then that way I can just like say this is who I am. I'm totally.
My business cards will probably say senior editor for the next 5 years because I got a new box before the title changed, and why change?
that seems like how most businesses operate. I think it's like here's your business cards. Probably came in, and by the way, here's a promotion. So
exactly.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, so we want to talk about. It's been a while, but we usually check in with things that I guess I could say topical issues, things that we saw that interest us, and so what I think about 6 things, maybe 7. I'm not really. We don't have to put a number on it, but per se. But what was something that you thought that caught your eye this week?
Well, the big thing I saw kind of last week was there was a lot of excitement and fallout from Google I/O.
Okay.
So on the one hand, I was really happy to see that Google I/O had web content again. Like the last 2 years, they had like one talk, and I'm like, wait, guys, Google does a lot on the web. Yeah. This year, I don't know, depending on how you count, it looked like 8 to 12 talks. And a lot of that conversation was about progressive web apps. And somehow over the course of those conversations, we managed to get controversy both about progressive web apps in Google's definition not showing URLs, which sort of made Jeremy Keith fire off a few points. And there was also a use the platform thing, suggesting that people maybe shouldn't use JavaScript to reinvent all the things that are already there in other forms. And that triggered a angry response from the framework creation community.
Well, so basically just using what the browser has and not reinventing it?
I mean, I sometimes talk about the HCJ stack instead of the MVC stack, and that's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Right.
So, yeah. Something I want to try, I think you could build a progressive web app with no JavaScript, just links and CSS styling, and I want to see if I can actually make that happen. Because it's just a manifest file, really, that defines the whole thing.
Okay.
Maybe technically the manifest. I don't think it is JavaScript. I don't know. I'll have to go look at it. And then the other piece was that Google itself is not really united. So they were also announcing like instant apps for Google regular traditional native Android development. So they're pushing apps in lots of different forms. And so the great thing was that this triggered all kinds of conversation. The complicated thing was that it triggered 3 or 4 overlapping but really different but really complicated conversations all at the same time. So I spent a lot of time on Twitter trying to figure out which thread people were replying to.
So by you say like overlapping apps, like had they different apps for and how they built it, or the different apps for different?
Well, so they're doing
solve the same problem.
Yeah, they're solving the same problem different ways. So the great thing about progressive web apps in an Android context is you can install them to your home screen easily. But the instant apps thing also lets you do like a quick install just with Android native stuff instead. Yeah. So I don't think there's actually any problem with having these two things doing the same stuff. But some people were like, why isn't Google giving us the one true way? And so that gets kind of complicated.
Okay.
So,
well, that makes me feel better that they don't have a one true way, right? So
that actually makes me feel much better about them.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown suspicious of companies that have one true way. So yeah, so that was good. There was also a great moment where Alex Russell, I guess, was on vacation, popped in out of vacation, and saw that Microsoft had started implementing service workers.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And he was like, I should take more vacations. This works well. So yeah, so things are moving in a lot of different ways there. I think all for the good.
Can you define service workers, just in case people were listening?
Yeah, so service workers, well, back in the dark ages of 5 years ago, there was this thing called app cache, which would let you say like how to store your website or web app locally to a device so that people weren't always having to have network access to like read it, see it, do stuff. Unfortunately, app cache turned out to have a lot of really bizarre bugs in it, or at least maybe they weren't bugs according to the specification, but it just proved really difficult to work with for anything complicated. So service workers take a step back from that. They're actually kind of tackling finer grained problems, maybe in some ways give you too much control. They're JavaScript, though. You can specify things in ways that are familiar to JavaScript programmers. And again, the idea is to let your apps work under a variety of circumstances. It might be totally offline. It might just be that your network is having a crappy day. Once you've got the stuff local, that's fine. You can update the cache so you're not like stuck at version 1.0 forever. It does require some things like your you can't just use HTTP. It has to be HTTPS connections. I guess that makes sense. You don't really want people caching malware. So yeah, I think in general, I don't know, maybe you've heard similar stories, but one of the things that I'm encountering, and I don't have real data for this, I just have a growing number of anecdotes, is that the app happiness of the last 5 or 6 years is halting.
Okay.
For a couple of different reasons. One is that there are a few big winners in the app stores, but most of the time when you build an app, you really don't make that much money.
Right.
There are so many things there. Everybody got in on it.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been great at the beginning, and it probably still is great for people who have hugely well-known brands.
Right.
But why would I download Joe's slide rule application? I don't know.
Right. It's a really good slide rule, man. I don't know.
So why would I run a slide rule on a phone? We'll leave that to the. So the other thing that's happening, and this story I've heard a little bit more from the content distribution. I mean, it used to be that like every website I would open up on Android would ask me to install their app. Mm-hmm. And I got really tired of it. And I actually uninstalled some apps as a result. I don't use Twitter as an app on my Android phone because it's just annoying. Yeah. So, but what I'm hearing is that there are companies that were all excited about apps to distribute content. And they've realized that what they really did was create 3 times as much work for themselves. Because now they have the web version, the Android version, the iOS version, plus who knows, some version for the boss's old phone. Even with wrappers, that's not much fun. So if this progressive web apps thing really takes off, even if it doesn't, it seems like a lot of that stuff is going back to just, hey, we can do this web thing. It costs 1/3 as much, maybe less. We don't retire.
Yeah, remember this thing? Yeah.
Yeah, this web thing. It's actually kind of resilient, and it doesn't crash in unpredictable ways, and it doesn't, yeah.
You don't have to update it as much as you...
and I don't have to hope Apple approves it every time, and
like, yeah. That's kind of sucked the most, is just that you work so hard on it, and if you don't have a good relationship with Apple, like i.e. tons of money or whatever, like you can't get your update out there as fast enough. So right. But,
or it's rejected for weird reasons, and then you send the same thing in again, and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like a step. It's not that native apps are going away.
No,
there are a lot of things that like there's a 20% of things that, you know, I still think are best done native. I don't really want Photoshop implemented in JavaScript.
Right.
People are doing pieces of it, but I don't want the whole application in JavaScript, thanks. There are, you know, some kinds of games that really rely on fine-grained control and massive frame rates, and virtual reality is, I think, the other big thing. The web-based virtual reality can be awesome, but it's not the same thing as the Oculus work or a lot of the other native work.
Okay, is virtual reality a thing? Let's talk about virtual reality.
Oh, sure.
As a thing, like what? Okay, I'm just laying on there. Like I'm not sure. Did we talk about virtual reality last time? I feel like we did.
I don't know if we did. I mean, I might have talked about the cardboard device that I got. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm jealous that you have one. I don't have one yet, but I just want one just to try it out. But like virtual reality for me has been, I don't know, just in my short time frame on this earth, it's just like it's been this thing that people want to have and have happen. You know, there was Vermal. I think we talked about Vermal last time. You know, I built a Vermal sculptor gardens. You know, like built 3D objects, put them in space, and people who had the equipment and the computer and the vision could fly around the sculpture garden, whatever.
Right.
That was great, except that it's artwork that no one can see really. So whatever, what have you. And I guess artwork, you know, wants to be seen, I guess, by the artist. I don't know, weird. But so I just feel like the equipment is always in the way. And my view of virtual reality now is that you know, Samsung is very much behind it, very much trying to get it out there. I think because they're always trying to find a way. I think they're just trying to find a way to win on hardware a lot. And I just feel like, for me, virtual reality is not going to be won by hardware. It's going to be won by software. And by virtual reality, I really want the little Star Wars, you know, when they always talk on the phone, it's always holograms. And I don't want virtual reality. I want holograms. So yeah, and so that's what I want little holograms. You know, people talking to me, or like have little scenes.
Well, speaking as someone who gets easily motion sick, the holograms are a lot easier to deal with. I think a lot of what's happened to bring the conversation back in the last year or two is that basically the hardware, and I don't even mean so much the monitors, the stuff that's close to your eyes part, but the tracking parts have gotten a lot better. They've managed to make a lot more natural feeling experience. And I think that's kind of taken it back out of the, this is so weird, it's never going to happen.
So this is more like smooth. Putting the iPhone to your face, it's a lot more smoother.
Well, that's what Cardboard does.
Okay.
But Cardboard uses the tracking stuff in the phone, so that's got its limitations, and that's when I get really motion sick.
So the big goggles.
The big goggles, yeah.
So they don't have that motion sickness that you.
I haven't quite dared yet, and I haven't been at a place where they really had the good goggles. I've used the mediocre goggles, and that was okay.
When was
Cardboard is really hard on me.
When was the last time you used the mediocre goggles?
Probably last July.
Last July. Okay, so they McDonald's was at South by Southwest, and I threw myself upon McDonald's, which isn't a terribly hard thing for me to do. But and I went and they had a VR exhibit. And and it was just like, you know, I guess it was just a simple paint a Happy Meal. It's like, I say it's simple. It's a simple, you know.
I think for McDonald's
and virtual reality, you know what I'm saying? It's a simple thing. And so it's
television more. The smell of the French fries, I mean, like that just seems much more powerful than drawing.
It was. I actually had fun doing it. I mean, because it was virtual reality paint, Happy Meal box with different types of brush strokes and but the thing I fell in love with was the kind of the kinetic nature of just throwing a blob of paint against the wall, and just like it was just so much fun just to do that, and so that was fun. However, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh well, that's cool, but now what? And so they, at the end of it, I got a little postcard with my artwork on it, but that was it.
Well, the other thing that people are talking about again, and they've been talking about this on and off for 30 years, is the augmented reality stuff, where
Yeah.
it's not just virtual reality, but it's stuff projected onto the world or onto your view of the world. Somebody did a video like this week. I can't remember what it was called. It was like Hyperspeed or something. I'll try and track it down and send you the link. And it was about somebody like using VR goggles to try and do sort of like an Uber delivery job. And of course the goggles don't work and all of these things go crazy. And you can, but you see the difference between like the augmented world and the real world when the thing goes down. And it's kind of weird because you're like immersed even in this little video in this highly augmented world, and it just starts seeming normal. A little weird, but you know, it starts seeming normal, and then you suddenly take off the augmentations. Maybe they flatten the colors a bit. I'm not sure. It really reminded me of I like technology when I'm not completely dependent on it. Yeah.
You want progressive technology.
What?
Progressive technology, is that what you want?
Yeah. Yes, I want progressive augmented reality where it still works even if it's broken. No.
Well, one of the things I love about the Apple Watch is that the bad part is that you have to use Apple Maps. Is that if you use Apple Maps and you're using it with your smartphone or your Apple iPhone, and you're walking or you're driving, your watch will actually buzz if it's a left or right hand turn that you did take. And it'll actually tell you, like, like how many buzzes. I forget which one buzzes left or right or whichever. So, but it's always nice because it's not like it's you're not expecting it, but it's a nice like passive ambient information that's sent to you, and so it's not virtual reality. It's not, but it's augmented to your reality a little bit. So it's like, hey, you need to go turn here and turn
right. It's a less intrusive augmentation. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So. And that's like I think O'Reilly has a book is ambient findability. I think that's the book.
Yeah, that's more about finding stuff on the web and that kind of thing. We do have a learning virtual reality book that covers like web stuff and some native stuff too.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing a lot more with it.
Yeah.
We had a bit of stuff on it at Fluent. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those spaces that I've seen go by so many times now that it's hard not to be cynical.
That's the boat I'm in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I remember having like Jaron Lanier as a customer at Kinko's like 20 years ago, and and I went through Vermal and all of these things. But maybe it is time. I mean, the graphics have certainly gotten better, and the sensors have definitely gotten better. So,
right, like this is the information age, internet age. So software can only get better exponentially. I think so. I don't know. It depends. But yeah, I think that I just haven't seen a killer VR app yet.
I think it's going to start in gaming for a while.
Yeah, it usually does, right? So that's usually where it ends up.
There is,
or second.
There are some other folks working on it for data, where you can kind of like walk through your data. It feels very William Gibson to me. Like Neuromancer had those like skyscrapers of databases and that kind of thing. But I can at least imagine ways that would be useful. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So our next item of the week, I'm going to put out the Instagram redesign their logo. Is one of mine.
Got to redesign the logo all the time.
This guy, if you haven't seen it by now, you should definitely. We'll put in the show notes. But the animated GIF of the kid. There's a kid playing with this old computer and just playing with Photoshop to gradients. Have you seen that one yet?
No, I haven't. I'm just trying to track it down here because when I visit the Instagram site, it doesn't actually show me a logo, which is really annoying.
Oh well, it's in the notes I sent to you.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, it's in that one. It's in the Medium post. So that was just so.
Okay.
It's so great.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to be skeuomorphic,
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. One, two, it's cool to be flat colors, but I feel like it's on one hand it's like really weird design, but two, I appreciated the gradients, but I feel like I don't know, I think it's a bold move. I'm really happy
it looks to me like it's catching on fire. I mean, you kind of have a sky blue at the top. It's like something the camera is catching on fire at night from below or something. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. It definitely. I mean, like one of the things we do with when designing something with apps and stuff like that, we put the logo next to its competitors and see how it
Yeah.
shapes up. And definitely when you see an iPhone in the apps, it definitely looks different than the other apps. Like everything is, you have the Twitter's blue, Facebook's blue, Snapchat's yellow, and you got what else we have here? Like Facebook Messenger is blue, so it's Yelp is red. So like now you have this gradient, which is like purple, red, yellow with this bold white, icon. So
Yeah, I saw something yesterday on why book covers have all gone yellow lately, and I think clearly this will be the next trend. I mean, everybody's doing yellow, so now we got to do yellow with gradients.
yeah, it wasn't that there was like some design trend.
Yeah.
Like as soon as printers were able to do gradients, I think it was like Wired magazine. They were like, as soon as they were able to do gradients, they were like just everything was this weird, bold, eye retina burn gradients.
Yeah, I have a friend who thinks that not only was Wired a practical joke on designers, it was also a brutal test for their printing process. So it was really like a, let's see what happened. I know other people who love Wired, of course. So
Right, I love Wired of the old, so of the old, of the original issues. I still have them floating around somewhere.
Yeah, I finally let mine go actually, but
oh really? Oh, you put them off the sea and threw an arrow, let them burn.
I didn't let them burn. I gave them to a library book sale, but
Right. Yeah, I still my favorite book is it's called Mind Grenades from the Future. So you probably pick it up for $0.01 on Amazon, but it's a hardback, not a hardback, it's just a softcover book. And what Wired used to do is I'm not sure they still do it. I still subscribe to it, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But they used to have a 2-page fold, and they would be like kind of like their mission statement or like their statement for that issue, and usually like designers. And so My Grenades is the collection of the first couple of years of existence of having that. So you have like artwork or quotes by Brian Eno and a lot of great artists at the time. And at that time means early 90s. So you have or mid 90s. So you have a lot of like people trying to force Photoshop to do crazy things or Amigas or something like that. So VR or 3D modeling, stuff like that. So it's a little kind of cheesy, but still, I think it holds up pretty well. So.
Now I'm kind of wishing that I still had those old issues because I want to go back and see what they're saying about VR then, but that's all right.
Well, you can get my Grenades, so so big enough. But doesn't Wired have like the back issues online? They should be able to.
I think you can find them, yeah.
So cool. Okay, let's skip to the next one. Let's progressive web apps up down. We talked about that. We talked about finally getting back to CSS, playing with fluid topography.
Yeah, I had such a fun time this last weekend. So it's been a while since I've done anything real on the web. Jen Robbins and I did an iPhone app like 4 years ago that I might actually reinvent as a progressive web app. We'll see. That could get exciting. But, I go to shows. I see all these great talks on, responsive design, on typography, on the new layout possibilities. Jen Robbins' talk in her layout lab really have me going, yes, we're here, finally, something interesting. But I hadn't done anything. And so I've been working on a book about woodworking for complete beginners. It's basically a book about hand tools. And I wound up writing it because basically all the books on doing stuff with hand tools and woodworking assume you kind of grew up using these things, or that you already have all of the tools. So there's a great book I know where the first project requires you to own about $2,000 worth of equipment. And it's not that hard a project, but $2,000 worth of stuff. So I'm trying to write this, kind of different thing. I decided around the beginning of the year that writing it as a book was ridiculous. I should really think of it as a website. This is the 21st century after all. But I also wanted, I wanted actually like a 19th century look. So, I went hunting for typefaces. I found Bell, which is a monotype typeface with roots going back to early 1800s. And I actually bought a font, which I have not done in a long, long time. I still have 249,800 impressions left to go, so it's okay. I started playing with fluid typography. There was a great article in Smashing that was enough to get me started. Actually, it did something brilliant because it didn't solve all of my problems, but it solved enough of them that I was willing to pick up the typing and make something happen and then start cursing and still be willing to fix it. So that was good.
Cool.
So yeah, the typography has been fun. CSS has grown up a lot, and it was fun getting compliments for things that I had nothing to do with. Fonts include ligatures. Browsers are now smarter than they used to be. Ligatures happen. You don't have to do all that work. I like that. The part that I'm really looking forward to, though, is probably more the layout side. It's still basically a book layout, except that I want to do some wacky things with pictures. And I want to do things where I'm preserving a sane HTML source order so that if you load it without style sheets, you don't curse a lot. But maybe if you load it in the full-on awesome version and you're like on a big monitor like I'm on now with lots of horizontal space, right, it might be that the text is on the left and the images are on the right, and that the images move as you go through the text. I think I can actually do most of that just with CSS. I'll do JavaScript when I get to it if I have to. It's fine. But yeah, it's just, I spend too much time in this like meta world where I can tell you all about what CSS is capable of, but can't show you any of it.
Right.
And so it's been great, like coming back to reality.
Yeah, cool. So, so you started with this fashion magazine article for fluid typography.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just a couple weeks old. I don't think anything in it is actually new. It was just the way that they put it all together made me happy.
Okay. Do you know who wrote it? That's good.
I can find it for you.
Okay.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Okay. Because we interviewed Zell. I forget his name. Let's see.
I found it.
Okay.
It is Michael Riethmuller.
Okay. Yeah. So we talked to let's see. Let me just find it real fast. It's Zell. Yeah, Zell Lu. Yeah, Zell Lu. Responsive typography in March. And so he's actually been talking about responsive typography, and I would probably just check out his website. His website's ZellWK, ZELLWK.com. And so he's got a lot, check out his blog, and he's been talking about typography, responsive typography for pretty much most of this month, for most of this year. And he's actually got like a SaaS kind of library called Typey.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I just want to stay in CSS. I'm a cranky jerk.
Well, even then, like he's got some great breakdowns for typography. So even if you don't want to do that, so if you want to do viewport-based typography, he breaks down REMs versus EMs.
Yeah.
And vertical rhythm, some of that too. So you just borrow the output and those things.
Yeah, the thing that actually I realized a couple of years ago is that line widths make a huge difference to me.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm like overly sensitive, but I look at some of the stuff that I did like 10 years ago and I go, what was I thinking?
So what's your line width, or is it width or length? Is it?
Well, I guess line length, yeah. I mean, it's the width on the page, but I think it's called line length. Yeah. It turns out that I'm really happy when things are actually on the slightly shorter, like 60 characters side of things. A lot of what I did 10 years ago feels more like 100.
Yeah, okay.
Supposedly the comfort zone is 45 to 80.
Right. Yeah, because it's 85 is what designers say, but 80 characters is what I think accessibility people suggest.
Yeah, and I'm actually finding I like slightly shorter than that. So, yeah, I know it creates all kinds of hyphenation headaches. And I think that's why the 85 is actually preferred by designers, because hyphenation is a pain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, I found a WordPress plugin for typography. It was really great. I have to go look it up. But I tried, and I just said, hey, turn on hyphenation. And if the browser supports it, we'll add it. And I just can't stand hyphenation in a web page.
It's not done very well either.
Yeah,
I have a lot of things to decide. I mean, like for a print version, I would, I'd want it justified both sides. I'd want hyphenation, but for the online version, no, not so much.
Yeah, and in fact, even with hyphenation in the newspaper world, they try to do it infrequently. Whereas if you turn it on in the browser,
it goes crazy.
It just goes like, yeah, we'll put one here, we'll put one there. There's no like, editorial control, which is something to say, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Well, my favorite thing on that is I was talking to a guy who did East Asian stuff, and he was talking about how there really isn't an algorithm for line breaking in Thai. It has to do with the aesthetics of the line, and they're not really things that you can express as an algorithm. I guess they're doing it anyway, but like people are like, I don't know.
Okay. Oh man.
So, but that language looks much prettier than ours. So
I would say that. Okay. Next topic. Think of typography. How typography can save your life.
Yes.
And so this is an article on ProPublica that we came across. This is one of the E4H's. It's for Environments for Humans. So we sent out links of interest from our Twitter account throughout the week. And so this is one that was very popular with our followers. And so it actually
stole it from you. Yes.
Oh, really? Yeah. So it was basically it talks about first like lots of examples, but the first one was how the National Weather Service has always up till recently broadcast their weather warnings in all caps, and that was due to the limitations of technology at the time,
like the 1970s, early.
Yeah. And it kind of makes sense in a way because like all caps means all important. I'm really screaming at you, whatever. But now we have better technology. We can send lowercase messages, we like to type text and stuff like that, and so now so weather warnings now will have uppercase characters for the start of the sentence as usual as whatnot, and then lowercase letters throughout unless it's the name of a city or something like that. So it's pretty nice. So that's one way where typography is helping out. And it also talks about how the warnings in cigarette boxes are not very helpful because it seems like the cigarette you can't really pinpoint, but I feel like the warnings on cigarette packages are all uppercase, all underlined with a big black box around it with very little space. So it's very easy to like glance over it and look at the nice packaging that cigarette boxes have, if you will. And so it's not very. So that's one way where typography is really hurtful in a way. So if they actually change their message to be a little bit more.
I think they were trying to be shocking and bold, and the reality was just noise.
Yeah, well, hey, that's the benefit of the doubt. I think I would give them. And then they talked about the experiment with changing the typeface for U.S. interstate signs and how that didn't really play out very well, I guess. But they did some testing, and then they said like, hey, there was ample evidence that like the new typeface. Let's see what's it called. I think it was called interstate. I don't think there's what's the name of it? U.S. roads. So interstate roads have never used a typeface called Highway Gothic since the 1950s, and there was a test to see if we can actually, with a new typeface called Clearview, that would compete with it and see if it was better. So some people did do a test to see if it did work, and there was about like 0.1 second notice that people can discern signs with Clearview more than the old typeface of Highway Gothic. But then, so there was this kind of mandate of sorts for people to replace signs with this new typeface. And all of a sudden they just stopped and said like, oh, there's new evidence, there's new testing that says that that's not really true. And
I don't think they broke anything. Like I actually prefer the Clearface by a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because like if I'm looking at something just at a glance, it like registers easier. Yeah. The other case, which I don't think they talked about in that article on street signs. I mean, they talked about uppercase, lowercase, but like street signs went from being all uppercase to mixed case. And I do find the mixed case a lot easier to read.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know. People argue about it. A lot of people like all uppercase because they're used to it. But maybe more on street signs where it's short than in National Weather Service warnings where it's too much. But
yeah, I just know. Well, like the thing I like about the Weather Service messages being all caps is that that's a Weather Service warning, and that was in the message. Like, oh, it's a big warning. But I think people who are scripting the messages now feel better because now they don't have to do any additional programming work to change the case, if you will.
Yeah, the other thing it reminds me of is like the old, like you'd see in a movie, the news feeds coming in on those teletype machines, and it was always that like all cap kind of awesome. We are really important telex people. So yeah,
the stock ticker thing too. Like
yeah, I guess the 70s are over, but I don't know.
Some newsflash. Oh man. Another thing that was popular with the E4H is SVG flags as a resource. So there's actually a resource. Someone made all the flags of like all the nations that they're. So if you think of it, it's called flag-icon-css. I think .ilp.is.
Yeah, those are. I want someone to do the same for the U.S. state flags because I want a decent SVG of New York, and I haven't been able to find one. But
that would be nice.
Texas, I think, would be easier.
Texas would be pretty sweet. That'd be pretty straightforward. I'd probably just do one anyway. Get it out there. But yeah, so if you need a flag for a country, they're totally out there. So it's a project on GitHub as well. So you can be follow it, see if there's any changes to it. So, but it's a collection of all country flags in SVG plus the CSS you need to insert it. So that was actually pretty popular as well this year, and it just shows you the popularity of SVGs. Just again going to like earlier talking about how better browsers are now to support SVGs natively, and
SVG's been a long, slow burn, and
but now it's just enough, enough momentum has happened now. It's just so many. We like E4H had this SVG summit in January, which is great. SVG was big in CSS DevConf last year, and like I don't know how many books O'Reilly's doing about SVG.
Yeah, we're doing a bunch. Largely for people who spoke at CSS DevConf, actually, but
yeah. And then, but yeah, so it's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to, it kind of falls back to the icon for Instagram, where like I love the gradients because I feel like I just can't stand a flat design. I mean, we're at the. I don't want the whole like 3D effect of skeuomorphism, but there's gonna be some middle ground where we have some 3D coming back into it. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of material design either because I feel like it's too cold manipulating. Like I feel like too sterile.
I feel like somehow we fell into a weird period of making things feel dead and flat.
Yeah.
And calling it, I don't know. I'm kind of cranky. Like I like serif fonts. I'm one of those people. But it just seems like, I don't know, maybe Apple's minimalist style infected everything else or something. It's weird.
Yeah, that's always what I fear about whenever there's a new iOS design update. Like that's because you're going to see your web pages designed within like 2 to 3 months. So
yeah, well, it has influence. I mean, it's not even just the like electronic design. Like I stayed at a Yotel, and I think the theme was purple iPads. It was kind of this pinkish purple light everywhere, and everything had rounded corners. And I just, I need something more than rounded corners to go with my minimalism.
What is a Yotel? I have no idea.
It's a hotel where the rooms kind of feel like cruise ship cabins. So for instance, so some of the things, the bathroom, like the shower was just part of the bathroom. There really wasn't like a separate shower.
Okay.
The bed had a switch so that you could kind of slide it back and up to turn into a couch.
Okay.
I think like my hotel room was maybe 12 by 10, and everything was just kind of stuck into this really tight format.
Okay.
It was a little weird. It's on 42nd Street at 10th, and if you had told me like when I lived in New York that I'd be sitting at 42nd and 10th watching the cars go in and out of the Lincoln Tunnel, I'd have thought my future was really bleak and not just like minimalist and purple.
Okay.
So yeah, and they also have like a robot that grabs your luggage or something. I don't know if that's still there, but that was
seriously
kind of funky.
You Snapchatted that, right?
I'm sorry, what?
You Snapchatted that, right? The robot?
No, I didn't. It was actually, I know Snapchat must have existed when I was there, but
okay.
I don't really remember it being a big thing. They do have free coffee and hot chocolate, however, so there are values.
Okay. Oh man. Yeah. So so I mean, design treatment's gonna be one thing, but yeah, I feel like it's not gonna be. I have what I look forward to most, I think, in terms of design is how Apple refines the design style that they have now. And when they first came out with it, it was a big rush job, and now I feel like they've slowly been walking it back and getting some time to like think about not the mistakes that they made, but how they could improve upon it. I would rather suggest saying. But
well, I think Apple got used to being able to do anything they wanted,
mm-hmm.
and everybody would say, "Whoa, it's from Apple! It must be awesome!"
Right.
But maybe the 15 years of iTunes awfulness is catching up with them, or something. People are a little more cautious about cheering it on. So.
We did a whole show. Like we should probably do a whole show about iTunes, Apple Match, and Apple Music, and how that was just
an Xcode just for extra pain.
It was just, I don't know, like they launched Apple Music and iTunes, and then they took away home sharing abilities, and so I was just like, for music, I was just like, what are you? And they had to update iTunes just because I got so I couldn't use it anymore. So just and then I talked to podcaster Chris Hens, a producer of the show, this week about Apple having a meeting with podcasters and seeing if they were actually going to do anything or whatever. Because I mean, if you have a podcast, you need to be on Apple iTunes, and then still the technology still hasn't changed that much for iTunes. So it's been crazy. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the podcast piece is less broken. Mm-hmm. I was thinking too about the way that like the whole way that I listened to music was shaped by like the classic iPod and iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a good thing that I'm kind of album oriented anyway, and that just makes life less torturous. But yeah, what was I? It's kind of weird how these things get into your bloodstream.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was an Apple person, but I grew up with
I'm leaving Apple, so I'm more comfortable talking about these things. But there's still an iPod attached to my stereo, and it's the old one. So
okay, yeah, well, it's sort of like albums are great, but I felt like there's an artist. I'm going to say
right,
Smash Mouth. This is the advent of iPod. Right? Smash Mouth was a band.
Mm-hmm.
They were known for summer band.
I saw them live, man.
Dude, so did I. Dude, it rocked. No, they sucked. But they had an album. I think it was like they had a hit song, but they wouldn't release that song as a single,
right?
Because you had to buy the whole album, and the whole album is not as good as the hit single, right? So only when iTunes came along were you able to come along and buy the song individually, and for like 99 cents, whatever.
Right.
So, and I felt like, oh, sweet, we liberated music, right? But then I don't know. So. But we've lost the album concept. Man. So.
Yeah, well, most of my stuff I still buy as albums. So it's just the iTunes interface. I mean, I can build playlists. I can do all of these things, but why? That hurts.
Yeah. I do like making smart lists, though, out of iTunes.
Yeah, smart lists work. That's maybe the one place they were listening.
Yeah, and then Word Al was actually, I think it was at Adobe Max last year he was talking about, or the year before, he was talking about how he just finished up his, like, I think 8 album deal or whatever, and how he's not going to do another album deal because he's, with iTunes and Spotify, he's more of a, plus with his background, he's more of a single hit type of artist. And so he can actually come up with a single and have that be a big thing.
Right.
And people will buy that rather than having to construct a tour, 10 to 12 songs, every.
Right. Half of which will be out of date in terms of the original song by the time they get released. And yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So WordPress is 13 years old. So
it's ancient.
Man, it's holy. I can't believe, I just can't believe how strong of a CMS. It's not a CMS, it's a blogging tool, right? It's a blogging tool, turns CMS, turns shopping tool.
Turned everything.
Yeah,
I'll admit, I still have sites that say they're running movable type. they're not, because the movable type install broke and they're just static now, but that's okay.
All right.
Actually, that's one thing I liked about movable type was that it created static sites, and so even if it died, it was okay. WordPress, sometimes not. But WordPress is, I think blogging tools was a case where it was a lot smarter to be kind of in that second generation than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
WordPress just did such a better job of giving people what they wanted. I'm not sure that it's kind of infinite extension to cover every use case has been such a good idea. Every time somebody asks me to help them on their WordPress project, I'm cautious because I don't know what I'll find.
Yeah.
With movable type, at least I knew it was always going to be terrible. It was fine. But yeah, so with WordPress, it seems like it's a case where extensions are awesome until they're not. And then,
right.
Yeah, and getting things out of it and into something else is not a joy. But I still wish there are 2 sites that I work on that moved away from WordPress, and I wish they had just stayed with WordPress.
Oh, really? Yeah, like, why do you miss it then? Like, what are the things you miss?
They both went to custom designs, and the custom designs are really, really brittle. And WordPress, I don't know. It's because WordPress is trying to appeal to so many people. The interfaces just feel more flexible, more comfortable. Maybe it's that the new custom things were mostly built by programmers. They both had designers do all kinds of great work on the exterior side of it, so everything looks polished and beautiful. But the inside, there's a lot of duct tape and chewing gum and things like that. I mean, there are people who will tell me that WordPress is entirely baling wire and chewing gum and duct tape, but I don't tend to find it that way in practice. So 13, lucky 13.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently just started digging into WordPress a lot more than I have in the past, and it's free until you want to do something,
Right?
And then it gets a little bit kind of pricey. But and I'm always impressed with the number of plugins that are out there, and I just found the plugin for Medium, right? So you write a blog post and it'll automatically publish to Medium, which is just like solves one problem there that I have, and so which is great. It's then it falls back into Jeremy Keith's and my mantra. I agree with him on that. Was just and also Sean from formerly of South by Southwest Interactive. Of owning your own stuff and publishing it to different material. So that's really what I'm hoping to get with my blog. But also to do that, that's not cheap. Either you code it yourself or you get plugins to do it too. So, but either way, you need time invested to get it set up. So, but yeah, it's just amazing just doing that little research as how much WordPress is. And so I just remember talking to my a publisher like I don't know, was it 12, 14 years ago, and said hey, I want to do a book on WordPress, and they said no.
Right.
And I feel like if they said yes, I would have been more of a master of WordPress than I am now. So.
Yeah, O'Reilly's done a little publishing on WordPress. There actually are some pretty good books on it. There's lots of videos on it. I don't know. I think the content management world somehow needs more love.
How so?
Well, so a couple things. One, I took a workshop at the Create Upstate conference a couple weeks ago. Natalie, I think Semelchuk, she's in your neighborhood now. She's moved to Austin. She was talking about the design process for building a CMS for a system. And I think that's actually where a lot of these things fall down. Sort of the same stories I was just telling you about with, actually vanilla WordPress would have been nicer than where we ended up in some ways. I think there are a lot of things that are really easy to get started with, but really hard to do right in this space. And the other hard part is that a lot of people don't notice the difference. Your users will notice and curse every time they have to do something 3 different ways to get something done. But somehow it seems like we build these things, and once they're done, they're just kind of cooked, and they should sit there, and they shouldn't. I don't know. It's like we did this thing; it's done. Right. So I feel like the whole CMS world, as awesome as it is, just needs more flexibility. I think back to my XML days, and some of those document systems were incredibly obsessed with controlling the structure of everything you ever did.
Right.
And the good thing about most of these content management systems we're talking about is that you can still do what you want with HTML in them most of the time. There's still some corner you can escape. It's better than that XML world was. but it's still not very flexible. And so like this crazy woodworking thing I'm doing the fluid typography with and the layout and all, what I'm doing there is like letting myself create whatever structure I want. And then, yes, I'm using XSLT because I'm evil. And then just using that to transform it to whatever HTML I want it to look like. So that's like this totally flexible, totally iterative process that only works because I'm managing both ends of the system. The stuff that Natalie was showing was, you know, kind of a halfway. It was all like GUI interface and not like you must write a transformation because that would suck. But you had enough flexibility in the CMS to create different structures, and that was really cool and really different. But I haven't had the fortune of experiencing that directly. So sometime.
Yeah, like if you're able to control both, you know, the manner, both the system and the content, then yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah, and it makes me love HTML more because I can do pretty much anything I want with it as an output format. So it's good.
Yeah, HTML is pretty awesome. I don't know. I think people just forget, like, I don't know, it's that the age-old thing of, I get an echo right now.
Uh-oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's still there. No. Maybe not.
It must not be me then, because I muted.
Okay. Maybe just some weird thing happened. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's what was it? Yeah, I just want to get people to fall in love with HTML again and CSS. So not recreate both those things in JavaScript would be great.
I feel like CSS actually is getting attention these days. I mean, partly it's just that there's so much more happening with it. I think some of it is that even diehard programmers have realized that CSS can just be a lot faster, and they like that. The HTML side, like the markup language isn't changing much. Web components is kind of swirling around. Maybe it'll be done. Maybe it won't be. Who knows? So it's a more difficult situation.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. But let's get to the next one. The last one. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say because he used to be Create Upstate, which is Dan Rose's thing. He used to speak at Artifact, which is what we put on, and so he's a great guy. So is he in charge of it, or?
He's one of 3 people.
Okay.
And I found the show mostly because of Dan. I was following him, and suddenly there was this Upstate thing, and I was like, wait, I live in Upstate. I'm actually even like wearing the shirt today, but totally unintentional, but that's okay. It's, you know, for me, like there just haven't been local conferences. Like Ithaca has meetups, but conferences don't come here. They come to New York, or actually Philadelphia is a little closer to me. I went to Cleveland for Rust Belt Refresh a couple years ago. That was fantastic. But Create Upstate is interesting because I don't know, you've done stuff with AIGA. I don't get to go to a whole lot of stuff that's really designers. So the workshop day was a lot more web-centered, and the presentations day was a lot more design in whatever form. I loved, so a couple of things they did. I spend my days in digital media, but I'm still really happy to like encounter letterpress. I think because I work in digital media, that like drives me to like do woodworking and like take paper seriously, because I just don't get enough of that stuff.
Right. I totally understand.
And they did a really nice job of having like vendors and sponsors in the room. Like my favorite one there is Mohawk Paper, who are just always there. They are an Upstate company. They can tell you more about paper. Well, I just be prepared for a couple of days of discussion. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have sample books that remind me of the ones I used to make at Kinko's too, but with better paper. So, so that was cool. The talks did a really nice job of explaining to me sort of what happened to us in digital media, because a few of them were almost kind of confessional. It was like, I became famous and did all this great work, and I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. So yeah, that is how we got all of those iPhone apps written in Objective-C in 3 weeks by people who didn't know Objective-C. That is how like Flash took over the universe for a while, and rolling it back was hard. It was it was an amazing show that it kind of stepped back from any particular medium. I'm so used to going to shows where like the web is the center of things, or like our solid show for O'Reilly, hardware was really the center. Our design show, like, it was UX across multiple media, but they were really kind of trying to stay in this nice fuzzy UX continuity zone. And this kind of broke all of those patterns. I mean, I know that I'm never going to personally be doing typography with coffee grounds. I can leave that for other people. But
so gracious.
And then I think about my own experiments with ASCII art, and I'm like, there's something here. The thing I think you and I talked about online with the record player and the wedding invitation, you know, that's like mixing media in a way that had never, ever occurred to me before. And I feel like everybody needs to get a dose of this once in a while. Whatever field you work in, just like step outside. And, you know, basically I went because it was a regional show that I could drive to. And I got way more than like, hey, that was convenient. I got, this is good. So yeah, Dan is doing great things.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not sure this is part of AIGA, but yeah, so, but yeah, Mohawk Papers is really awesome. They used to sponsor a lot of things for AIGA events when I was on the board of multiple AIGA chapters. So, yeah, I think, like I'm not sure we talked about it before, but we did toss around on Facebook was the, you mentioned it on Facebook, is the wedding invitation that was printed on a paper, and the song was recorded on, I'm not sure it's a plastic vinyl record.
It's those bad demo discs that used to come in magazines.
Yeah, so, and then they just took a needle and paper and no speaker, right? It was just paper.
The paper itself was the amplifier?
Yeah, and so, and then you just spin the record at the right speed. You know, it's like trial and error, like you were a kid, you know,
right?
Like you do this for a living, right? You just spin the, like, you know, professionally, like, oh, it needs to be like this speed. And then you heard the song, and the song is going to sound terrible because the medium,
right?
You know, it's terrible, but you don't care because it's joyful, right? It's
right.
And so I shared it with Ari, who's, you know, Ari and I both have print backgrounds, and so we're just like in the office, we're just like, that is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Like, how can we be this cool? Like, I don't know, no idea. But yeah, it's so cool. It's so nice to remember and to get that inspiration of bringing together different mediums and different skill sets to create something wonderful and new. And so, yeah. So that's definitely like that's a cool conference to go to. From
a little less extreme. I mean, like, I think you saw Jen Simmons talk about Vogue magazine, and like after all of these years of telling people to stop using print metaphors, it's actually time for us to go back to those magazines and like steal from them the ideas.
I felt a little offended because I never told people to stop doing that.
Oh, okay.
So I never told anyone to stop doing that. So
right.
I just wanted you.
I spent my early career explaining to print designers that the web was not Quark Express.
Yeah.
So that I was totally with her on that, but it may just be a matter of timing and audience. So
yeah, I might have, but like I started up with print design, and I went with David Siegel, who was already into print.
Yes, that's right.
So
that's
I never told anyone to stop.
Right.
Being print.
It's okay.
So, but I totally understand her point of view. I was just like, well, like, hey, you know, like, what's up?
Right.
You know.
Right.
But
I don't think you were giving people Vogue magazine and telling them to do that, though.
Yeah, I was not getting, like, I can tell you right now, I was not giving people Vogue magazine. That's for sure. It's like there's plenty of other great magazines out there. I'd say Vogue is not great, but yeah. So there's plenty of inspiration from magazines. So and that's also like I remember Tontek would you know, early 2000s, whatnot. He would just take whatever print piece was in front of him, like a menu or whatever, and he would try to redesign it with CSS. And it doesn't have to be a great layout. It can be just anything. So, and I think what's really hurting us now is that we have, which is a plus and a benefit now for web designers, is that we have known vocabulary or known of how a web page is supposed to work. Right? We have navigation menus. We have logos go in the left-hand corner. And so there's got this thing that there's this trade-off. Is like, do we give people the metaphors that they know already, and to help them find and do something like, which is probably what you want to do for merchandise, or if you're having more of a reading magazine or blog, you can trade that with more of an experiential, nature, and change things up a little bit more and have more of a visual impact. And then, but still, you still have to fall back and design for multiple devices. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to do with research, is trying to find out, what does that mean for responsible design. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure it out in my own experimental, formerly book project. I don't know, Jen, have you seen Jen's Layout Lab?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah,
that's giving me some other crazy ideas. And I feel like there's another one of those I need to find again that was more JavaScript centric, but also was dedicated to like, okay, let's break out of the 3-column thing. So hopefully we can do more of this. Like, I'm guessing like over the next year, and especially as we start getting Flexbox and Grid, you're going to start seeing some of those things like icebergs kind of starting to break up.
Yeah.
I don't plan to go back and upgrade all of my 3-column sites though. So.
All right. Cool. Awesome. So anything you're looking forward to, or you're passionate about coming up?
Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to summer.
Oh, really?
It's been kind of weird. Like, so we do this newsletter at O'Reilly, a web newsletter, and I need to have like 10 or 12 items for it every week. And like in the last 3 weeks or so, I've had a problem of having too many links. Like, I feel like the conversation just like really accelerated somehow in the last few weeks. I think it's conference season. That's a lot of it. And people are like bouncing new ideas off of each other. I really want to dive deeper into grid layout and Flexbox in particular. And I need to get something up as a progressive web app and just like test that. I really want to emphasize that progressive word, because I'm just like, well, I know Steve Champion, but I just like progressive enhancement more than anything else in web development. So just want to see what I can do with that.
Awesome. And where can people find you on the web?
My hideous website is simonstl.com, but on Twitter I'm just simonstl. Cool. The website's going to get a major update too, but it still looks like 2006 because that's the last time I updated it for real.
2006 in the house.
Yeah.
Sorry for everyone for saying that. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Cool.
What are you looking forward to?
Well, it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
So that's, and I'm actually kind of in a funk right now, so I'm like trying to get my groove back actually. So but I'm really excited. I'm just last week we talked about building stuff. I actually built something out of wood last weekend.
Good.
Which is crazy, and it hasn't collapsed yet.
Even better.
Which is also even better. Yeah, so just something for my desk because I have all this technology. I need a small mini tech tower to try to clear out my desk because I bought an Amazon Echo Dot.
Okay.
And I had like no room for it, which is totally shameful because it's about the size of a hockey puck.
Well, you need to be in the right location, right?
Yeah. So I built this thing so I could stack things on top of it, and I don't have really a lot of equipment for building wood, so I just pieces together like Home Depot will cut wood for you if you know the dimensions. And so I just drew the sketch, which is not to scale. Asked for a piece of wood to cut it, and got my stuff out and prayed that I knew enough to get done. So it worked. So that really got me excited for that.
You haven't set it on fire. That's good.
I know that fire was not involved in the building process. That's
there actually are some really cool finishes you can do with fire.
Oh, really?
Like lightly char the wood and then put wax on it. But I don't think you want to do that now.
Yeah, I don't want to do that when I have.
No.
I want that example in the neighborhood. There's like a guy who did wood making with fire.
Yeah.
So, but that sounds pretty cool. But yeah, it just there's a lot of projects in the air. We've recently announced CSS Summit lineup, which could grow a little bit more. Cut the Strategy lineup is out as well, and then working on Accessibility Summit lineup for E4H. So that's really got me excited that we've got those lined up so far in advance. And DevConf, we did the voting for that. The voting's done, and so now you go through and find out who's coming.
Good.
It's the DevConf. So what topics are coming? Because I have no idea.
Yeah. I'll be there. Meg Foley will be there. Somebody will be there from O'Reilly.
Okay.
So cool. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities in the air. I just need to sit down and set myself to the desk, and then also I need to exercise more. This is just a big dump. This is probably not what you asked for, Simon. But
no, it's good. It's good. I can on the exercise more. Like I go to my local Dunkin' Donuts, but lately I'm forcing myself to walk there.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better. Like that's pretty good for me because my local Dunkin' Donuts is actually like the next city over. So for me to walk there,
mine is like half a mile. It's not so bad. But...
yeah. So but yeah, I'm just trying to go to the gym and as much as I can and get the energy back going and some of that too. So, but yeah, there's a lot of cool projects in front of me, and just I had my health. Like the health issue was kind of an issue in January, but now I'm coming back. The sun's out. Get my vitamin D, get the day, and get the, I don't know what the hay is supposed to mean, but yeah, get rolling. So I'm really excited about that. Really kind of jazzed going forward. So yeah.
Great. I finally stopped sneezing too. So.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let me just stop the button. Sweet. Okay.